So for problem number 1, it says there are 70 students in the school band. 40% of them are 6th graders, 20% are 7th graders, and the rest are 8th graders. So we want to know, were you here yesterday? You weren't? Okay. So we want to know how many members are in 6th grade, how many band members are in 7th grade, and what's the percentage of our 8th graders. So we're going to be setting up our proportions to be able to solve. So let's start with 6th grade. I'm going to use this very first proportion for 6th grade. Remember, it is always part over whole equals percent over 100. If you've forgotten that, please make sure you write it up at the top, that we're talking about the part over the whole. You're not supposed to be talking. Shh. Go ahead and close your computer because you don't need it open. Huh? I understand. I'm telling you to close your computer. Thank you. Okay, we're doing the part over the whole equals the percent over 100. So when we're talking about 6th grade, do we know how many 6th graders there are? Do we know the actual number of 6th grade in this problem? Yes or no? No. Anywhere in here does it say there are this many 6th graders? No. It says a percentage of 6th graders. We see a percent that is 6th graders, so we can put 40 over 100 for our percentage, but we do not know how many actual 6th graders, so we should put X over how much? 70, right? Because there are a total of 70 students in band. Those 70 students are a mixture of our 6th graders, our 7th graders, and our 8th graders. So we're going to put it over 70. Okay, then we will do our cross product to be able to solve. So instead of tape diagrams, I'm going to let this be where we show our work. Okay, so for 6th grade, when we're showing our work, we know that we would have to go ahead and multiply our diagonals, right? We would have to multiply X and 100, and that would give us 100X. We would have to multiply 70 and 40, and that would give us 2,800. Okay, from there we can then divide both sides by 100, and we would get that X is going to be equal to 28. So we have 28 6th graders. We have 28 students that are considered to be 6th grade. I want you to do the exact same thing, but this time we're going to find it for 7th grade. Set up your proportion, show your work to solve, and tell me how many 7th graders there are. Good. So when we set this up for the 7th grade, again, we don't know how many there were, but we do know the band has 70 people in it. We do know our percentage for 7th graders. Our percentage for 7th graders is going to be 20%. So we're going to do 20 over the 100. And then again, we're just going to show our work off to the side here for how we would solve that proportion. So we would do 100 times the X, which is 100X. We would do 70 times the 20, and that gives us 1,400. And then at the very end, we would have to divide both sides by the 100. And that gives us X is equal to 14. Okay, so we have 14 7th graders. Now, we actually don't need to create a proportion for the last question, because the last question is just asking what's the percentage of band members that are 8th graders. So if we know 40% are 6th grade and 20% are going to be 7th grade, we can figure out the remaining percentage by doing what? Subtraction. Subtraction. Thank you, Jalen. And what are we going to subtract it all from?
70?
Well, 70 is a number of students. We're talking about percentages.
Oh, 100.
100. So we know that for 8th grade, because again, we are just focusing on the percentage. We're just focusing on the percent this time. We're not actually solving for how many 8th graders there are. But we could take 100%. We could subtract away the 40% that represents 6th grade and the 20% that's going to represent the 7th grade. And that's going to leave us with what? What's 100 minus 40 minus 20? Jalen? 40. Yeah, so we have 40% of our students are 8th grade. Yeah, that's the same thing. It's the same process. You could add the two percentages and then subtract from 100, or you could just say, I'm doing 100, subtract away 7, subtract away 6. Either way, it's the same. Okay? All right, let's take a look at problem number 2. Jada has a monthly budget for her cell phone bill. Last month, she spent 120% of her budget, and the bill became $60. Okay? So she has 120% of her budget out of 100%, right? She spent 120% out of her 100% budget. We don't know what her budget is, though. We have no idea what her monthly budget is, and that happens to be the whole. In this situation, that's the whole that's missing. We do know that the 120% that she spent, that came out to $60. So that's going to be our part. So we can put it as 60 over x equals 120 over 100. And then from there, we can go ahead and do our cross product. So we would multiply our diagonals. So again, I would have this time 120x is now equal to 6,000. And then we would divide both sides by 120. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to get that x is equal to $50. So her budget is only for $50, but she spent more than her budget. Her budget is $50, but she spent $60, which is why she went 120% instead of 100%. Okay, I want you guys to go ahead and do problem number 3 on your own, please. Set up your proportion based off of the information provided, and then solve. Okay, so last month Ed spent $50 in all. That's how much he spent in all. That's a key word to let you know that that's a whole. So we're going to put 50 at the bottom. He spent 40%. 40% of his money was spent at the movies. So 40% over 100. We want to know how much money he actually spent at the movies. So we're going to set it up as x over 50 is equal to 40 over 100. X over 50 is equal to 40 over 100. So when we do our cross product, we're going to get 100x is equal to, when we do 50 times 40, that's going to give us 2,000. Then all we have to do is divide both sides by the 100. Okay, and we'll get x is going to be equal to $20. So $20 is what he spent at the movies. All right, so that's just, again, that's our practice with proportions, using the part over whole equals percent over 100, because again, we're using that often with our tips, tax, discounts, markups, all of that stuff that we did yesterday. We're using that constantly today as well. Go ahead and flip it to the next page so we can continue with the warm-up. So again, we're going to do some more practice with those tips, tax, and discount problems. So if you were struggling yesterday with the, if you were struggling yesterday with the IXL, you want to make sure you're paying very close attention so that way you don't struggle today, because today is going to be multi-stepped tip, tax, and discounts. Shh. We had an IXL yesterday, yes. We do not have an IXL today. Okay. Good. All right. Shh. Melissa went to lunch and got a salad for $8.50, a soup for $6.25, and a lemonade for $2.65. There should not be any conversation right now. She decides to tip her server 25%. We want to know how much will the server earn from this meal. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is identify the part. The part in this situation, we are talking about tip. So we are just wanting to know what is the money amount that is being spent on tip. That is the part. We do not know the money amount that's being spent on tip, so we put X. The whole is going to be our subtotal. What's our subtotal? Addison? So we only had to pay for the lemonade? Noah?
It is
$17.40 is correct. So what did you do to get $17.40? Okay. So we added everything together, right? All we had to do is add the salad and the soup and the lemonade. Remember, a subtotal is when you take all of the information, all the things that you are actively purchasing, you combine those items together first. So we had to add, and I'll write it up here, we had to take $8.50 and we had to add it with $6.25, and we had to add that with $2.65, and that comes out to $17.40. Don't forget your zero at the end. You have to include the zero at the end. So $17.40, that's going to be our subtotal. That's how much money we have to give for just the meal alone. Okay, and of course then we decide we're tipping, and the tip is our percentage right now, which was 25%. We know that we are tipping the server 25%. Okay, then we set this up into our proportion. Remember, it's always part over whole, percent over 100. Put the cologne away. Part over whole equals the percent 25 over 100. Okay, then we're going to do our cross product, right? We're going to multiply our diagonals together. So that's going to give us 100x is equal to 435. But we're not done. So then you have to divide. You're going to divide both sides by 100, and that gives you x equaling $4.35. Now, again, what does that represent? That $4.35 represents what to the problem? Not the tax, the tip. This represents the tip. So I want you to make sure that you write down that this is the tip. Now go back to the question. Is the question only wanting the tip, or is the question wanting the entire cost? So let's take a look. How much will the server earn from the meal? $4.35. Remember, the server only earns the tip. When we talk about what the server earns, the server is only earning the tip. Now, if the question had said, how much is Melissa going to spend on the meal? If she says, how much will Melissa spend on the meal, then you would have to combine your tip and your subtotal together. There is a big difference between only finding what the server earned versus how much Melissa is going to spend. The server earns $4.35. The meal in total cost $21.75. So you need to know the difference between that, because that's where a lot of you were messing up yesterday. Some of you were finding a total amount when they only wanted you to find the shipping and handling fee, or just the tax, or just the tip. Okay, you have to make sure that you're looking at the difference between the two. Okay, let's take a look at problem. Yes. It's 35, honey. You must have multiplied wrong. Okay, Bill is purchasing a new iPhone. The iPhone costs $899 and sales tax is 7.5%. We want to know how much money is Bill going to spend on his new phone. Okay, so again, we set this all up. Okay, in this question, are we talking about tip, tax, discounts, markups? What are we talking about in this problem? Tax. We are talking about tax. So we know that the part is going to represent tax as money. which we don't know what that is. That's our X. What is our subtotal, our whole? $899, because we only are buying one phone. Just one phone is $899. What is our percentage? 7.5. Our percentage is 7.5%. Okay, so we're going to set this up. We're going to do X over 899 equals 7.5 over 100. Okay, when we do our cross product, that gives us 100x is equal to 6,742.5. When we divide both sides by 100, we're going to get that x is equal to $67, and we'll round it. It's going to round to 43 cents. It's going to round to 43 cents because it would be 0.425. That rounds to 43 cents. Now again, what did X stand for? X stood for our tax. This is our tax. So let's go back to the question and make sure we answered the question. The question said, how much money is Bill going to spend on his new phone? Is he only going to spend the tax? Is he only going to spend the tax? No. If he wants the phone, he has to pay for the phone too, doesn't he? And the tax. So the question being, we want to know how much is he going to spend? This question is a total. We are trying to find a total that he is going to spend. So we're going to add, right? Tax means that you're going to add. You are going to add your subtotal, which in this case was $899, and we're going to add it with our tax, which in this case was $67.43. I don't know why y'all are raising your hands. I'm trying to get through this quickly. Okay, that's going to come out to $966.43. $966.43. That's an iPhone for you. iPhones are expensive. You can either get the camera from Target or from Walmart. We're trying to figure out which one is the better deal. So we see Target. Target originally cost $250. They have a coupon for $100 off. How are we going to figure out what the cost for Target is going to be? Put your money away. Target is charging $250 and they have a coupon for $100 off. What do we need to do? Just subtract, right? They're telling you how much money is already being taken off. So for Target, and I'm going to write that here, you're just taking the $250 that they originally were going to charge, and you're going to take off $100. That's going to equal $150. So Target is charging $150. Turn around. Walmart. Walmart originally was charging $230. They're taking 40% off. Are we just going to subtract 40? No, because this is a percentage. This is not money. We have to turn this into money first. So for a problem like that, that's when we're going to actually set it up as a proportion. Okay, we're going to do X over 230. And that's going to be equal to 40 over 100. We would do our cross product to solve. So we would multiply. We would have 100x is equal to 9,200. If you're not paying attention, I'm very happy to give you a quiz instead of an assignment today. John Carlos, don't be looking over at him. Look at the board. We're going to divide both sides by 100. You're going to get x is equal to $92. Is that how much Walmart is selling it for?
No.
No, that's how much Walmart is taking off. That's how much Walmart is going to take off from the cost. So for Walmart was originally $230. We are going to subtract $92 off of it, and we're going to see that Walmart's charging $138. So which one has the better deal? Target or Walmart? Walmart. So Walmart's going to be the better deal. There is a difference. I need you to understand that there is a difference between money off, which is just automatically you subtract, and a percentage off. With a percentage off, you have to figure out what amount of money that equals before you can subtract. Turn around. Okay, last one. Becky is a real estate agent. She earns 2.5% commission on any property that she sells. Yesterday, she sold the Klymans a home for $575,000. We want to know how much commission is she going to earn. So again, the part in this situation is going to equal the money amount of commission that she's going to earn, which we don't know what that is, so we just label it X. The whole is how much she sold, which is that $575,000 home. So we're going to put that over $575,000. The percentage is how much she's actually going to be earning, which is 2.5%. Lunch is over, put the food away. So we have X over 575,000 is equal to 2.5 over 100. We're going to do our cross product to solve. That's going to give us 100X is now equal to 1,437,500. But of course we're not done, we still need to divide. So once you divide by 100, you find out that from selling that home, she earned $14,375. That was her commission. 2.5% doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when it's a huge purchase like that house, 2.5% is a lot of money. Okay, that should be a thorough enough review of over how we did one-step tips, tax, and discounts. We're going to do multi-step today. And multi-step, it's a very simple process, but you have to make sure you're copying the process down and that you're not fiddling around and that you're not looking at each other and you're not making jokes. Otherwise, you will get lost. There are two types of multi-step questions that you're going to come across. Two different types of multi-steps that you're going to come across. Okay? The first type is a tip and tax problem. So when you go to the restaurants, you don't just pay for your meal and pay for the tip. You actually get taxed on your meal as well, but you don't pay tip off of the taxed amount. So what we do whenever you see a tip and a tax, you're going to actually add those percentages together and then work the problem out like normal. You're just going to add your percentages together and work them out like normal. That's the first type of problem that you're going to come across. The second type of problem that you'll come across is where you have a discount and a tax. With discount and tax, there's 4 steps to this problem. You first have to find how much the discount is going to be by doing a proportion. You then would subtract that amount from your subtotal. That gives you a new subtotal. You would then find the proportion using that new subtotal for your tax, and you would add those together at the end. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples of both sets. So make sure that you're paying close attention. Okay, James bought a $15 lunch. Tax is 5%, and he plans to tip 15%. So we have tax and we have tip. Are we talking about scenario 1 or scenario 2? When we're looking up here, are we talking about scenario 1 or scenario 2? 1. We're talking about tip and tax. So what did I say you have to do if it's tip and tax? You add it. You are going to add the percentages together. So the first thing that we are doing is we are adding 5% plus 15%. And that's going to give us 20%. So we are dealing with 20% as our percentage. Okay, so we have our part, which is missing, that's the X. We have our whole, which is the cost of the meal, that's $15 for lunch. And now we have our percentage. Our percentage is 20%. So again, when you're dealing with tax and tip, you add those percentages together first before you start working through the problem. Okay, now we can set it up. We can do X over 15 is equal to 20 over 100. Why do you have two computers? Thank you. We can then do our cross product. That's going to give us 100x is equal to 300. And then when we divide by 100, we're going to get 3. Okay, so x is equal to $3. That represents our tax and tip. That represents our tax and our tip together. Okay, now we want to know how much is he paying for lunch. When he pays for lunch, get out, bye. When he pays for lunch, he has to buy his $15 lunch and he has to pay for tax and his tip. Yes? Okay. Take it outside and sit out there. So we're taking our $15 for our lunch, we're adding it with the $3 for the tax and the tip. So that means he's spending a total of $18. Okay, so that is a multi-step problem, but the only thing that's multi-step about it is that you just had to add the tax and the tip together first before you do your proportion. It's the exact same method as what we were doing yesterday, except you combine those percentages together first, then you find your proportion and combine if needed, which most of these tax and tip problems, they're going to have you combine at the end. Okay, so for problem number 2, this is a little bit different. This one is a discount and tax. You have a sale, your discount, and you have tax, which means you are following scenario 2. So what I want you guys to do is you're going to split this section up into 4 parts. So just draw 3 lines down. So that way we can split it up into our 4 different steps. So for step 1, we're going to find the money amount for the discount. Knowing that this is 4 steps, you probably shouldn't talk to him. We're going to find the money amount for our discount. So that means we're going to set up a proportion where X is going to go over our subtotal, which was $6.50. And that's going to be equal to what percent out of 100? If we're talking about finding our discount, which one of those percentages am I going to use? Again, if we're talking about the discount, which percentage? Coven? 20. 20% is for the discount. So we're going to put 20 over 100. Okay, we're just setting up a proportion like we've been doing this entire unit. X over 650, 20 over 100, and then we do our cross product to solve. That's going to give us 100x is now equal to 130,000. Or I'm sorry, not 113,000. Then we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 100. And we'll get x is equal to $130. That represents the discount. That means this is the money that's going to be taken off. So what do you think we're going to have to do for step 2? If that represents the money that we're going to take off, what do you think we need to do for step 2? Coven? Subtract. So what 2 numbers are we going to subtract? Addison? Very good. So for step 2, like Coven said, we're going to subtract. And like Addison said, we're going to take what our original amount was, the original cost of $650, and we're going to subtract the amount of money that we're taking off, the $130. Okay, so this comes out to equaling $520. This becomes your new subtotal. This is important to understand that this is your new subtotal. We're no longer going to use $650 for our proportion. We're now going to use $520 because you only pay taxes off of the final cost of your item. $650 was not the final cost. The final cost of the item was $520. So we only have to find taxes based off of that $520. So that's where step 3 comes in. For step 3, we're now going to find the money amount that we're spending on tax. So essentially it's like you're doing 2 proportion problems all in one. You're doing a proportion problem and subtracting, another proportion problem, and then you'll add. Okay, so we're going to do x over, what's going to go down here now? 520, right? This is our new subtotal. Our subtotal goes on the bottom, 520. And it's going to be equal to what percent over 100? What's the percentage we're going to use now, Rajay? 8%. Now we're using 8%. Okay, we can then do our cross product. I'm going to do a different color for that since I already have orange. I'm going to use purple instead. Okay, we're going to do our cross product here. We're going to have 100x is being equal to 4,160. We can then go ahead and divide both sides by 100, and we're going to get that x is equal to 41.60. That represents the tax. What do we do with tax? What are you supposed to do with the tax? Very good, Jaden. We're going to add it to the total. So that's where step 4 comes in. With step 4, you're going to add. With step 4, you're going to add. Am I going to add this to 650 or to 520? To the 520, right? 650 was our old value. We don't use that one anymore. We're now going to take our new value of 520 and we're going to add our $41.60. Okay, and so that gives us a final cost of $561.60. Okay, so there's the difference between the 2 types of multi-step problems. So let me review it one more time with you. For this one, when it was taxes and tips, you just added the percentages together first. Then you did your normal problem, cross product and combine. For discounts and tax, you had to set it up into 2 completely separate proportion problems. You did a proportion, then you subtracted. Then you did a proportion with the new value, and then you added. Okay? So let's take a look here. I'm just going to flip to this for just a second. I want you guys to do problems 3 and 4 only. Just do 3 and 4. Don't worry about number 5. Just do problems 3 and 4 only. Modeling it just like we did with number 1 and number 2. Huh? Number 3 is just like problem number 1, right? That's a tax and tip problem. Number 3 is just like number 1, tax and tip. Number 4 is just like problem 2. The 4 columns. Okay? Shh. Kamari, turn around. Okay, Okay, so for problem number 3, the first thing that you should have done is you should have gone ahead and added, because we're talking about a tip and a tax, so you should be adding 25% plus the 7% to get a total of 32% that you're working with. You then have X over 85 is equal to 32 over 100. You can then do your cross product. You'll get 100x is equal to 2,720. You would then just divide both sides by 100, and you get that x is going to represent $27.20. That, again, that's your tax and your tip combined together. You then want to take that amount and add it to the price of the bill. So you would take your $85 that was the cost of the bill, and you would add it with the $27.20 that was your tax and your tip. When he looks at it. And that's going to come out to $112.20. Okay, huh? Yeah. All right. For our next problem, for problem number 4, a jacket originally cost $65.49. It's on sale for 30% off. Tax is 5%. We want to know the cost of the jacket. So again, this time we're dealing with a discount and tax. So like I told you guys, you would split the problem up into your 4 steps. So for step 1, we're going to find the discount. We want to know what the discount is. So we're going to do X over $65.49 is equal to 30% over 100. You would then do your cross product. You would get 100x is equal to 1,964.7. When you divide both sides by 100, you're going to get that x is $19.65. You would round it to 65 cents. If you round correctly, it would be to 65 cents. Boys, step 2, you're going to subtract. For step 2, you would subtract. So we would take our original price of $65.49, and we are going to go ahead and subtract the $19.65, and that's going to come out to $45.84. That is your new subtotal. That's our new subtotal that we're working with. Okay, for step 3, we are now going to find the tax amount. So that means, again, we're doing a proportion, but it's going to be X over $45.84 is equal to our tax percentage, which is 5 over 100. You would then do your cross product. That gives you 100x is equal to 229.2. You would then divide both sides by 100, and you're going to get that your tax is equal to $2.29. That's what it would round to, $2.29. Okay, then your last step, step 4, you're going to wind up adding. You're going to add this time. So you would take our new subtotal, which was $45.84, and you're going to add the tax, which was $2.29. So you should get $48.13 as your final price. Okay. Now, you are going to have some practice tomorrow at the beginning of class. You will have some practice tomorrow. Pack up.